Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's album review is on the Charlatans 1990 album, Some Friendly. Um, so I got a chance to, you know, it's I got a chance when I was putting together these list of indie pop and shoegaze and dream pop bands albums together to review. I chose like three or four of the 20 that I albums that I didn't have, ones that I sort of remembered from when I was a kid. I picked like one each, generally their debut album, and sort of, got a chance to hear it for the first time. I remember probably a couple songs on this album, specifically, the only one I know, which was their most popular song. I remember that from 1990 when this came out. But in 1990, there was a lot of indie pop coming on the scene with Primal Scream and Stone Roses and In Spiral Carpets and Charlatans UK and Suit Dragons and then later on Jesus Jones and EMF and all that kind of sound. So I really liked the period of like Happy Mondays from like '89 to like '94. I really liked that period of indie pop more so than your '94 to '99, like with Blur and Oasis and all those bands. There's not. I mean, I like James. James is probably my favorite of those bands. Um, as far as just songwriting ability and songs and difference, like and just strong albums. I like James a lot more, but you know, kind of doing these reviews kind of gave me the opportunity to check out some bands that I remember from when I was a kid, but I never really fully heard the album. So this is the first time I got to check out Some Friendly by the Charlatan, which I guess they call UK because there was another band I read in San Francisco that was called Charlatans. It was like a prog rock band or something like that, so they had changed their names. But this album is pretty straightforward. It's got acid pop in there, which I'm not a huge fan of that genre title, but I get it, kind of dance pop. There's definitely a hippie element in there, and a lot of these bands sort of have a hippie element into them, like Primal Scream and Stone Roses, right? And there is kind of a hippie sound in there, and I think some ties to '60s sound in some ways, like with those guitars, and a lot of like shoegaze without the sort of effects has that kind of '60s. I wouldn't say twang to it, but kind of you know. Element to it where I can't pinpoint any specific song. I mean, band that they're inspired by, but it has like a '60s sound to them, and in general, just a Manchester sound of like '89 to '94. That it sort of has that sound. I'm sure the Charlatans got a lot of comparisons to Stone Roses. I would imagine back in the day. Um, I'm not a huge fan of the Hammond organ in this type of in a rock band. Not always. It feel like it has like a church feel to it and adds like a sort of a gospel feel to it. And I'm not necessarily a big fan of that sound. There's definitely a lot of psychedelic sort of guitar effects in here. The bass is fairly aggressive, which is cool. The vocals are pretty solid. The drums are kind of like a garage band feel in here. I'd be surprised if they had anything more than a a bass drum, two toms, and two cymbals. There's not like there's a full on three, four, or five different toms to play on. I mean, it's very one note, and it's very very compact and pretty basic drumming for the most part. Not that he isn't doing a good job drumming. It's just kind of fairly basic drum setup. It sounds like. There's a lot of songs in here that sort of sound the same. It could be a little bit more varied. I think 8 or 9 have the same sort of beat in them. That same sort of Happy Mondays beat that everybody kind of knows from back in the day. Like, I'm trying to think like Big Audio Dynamite Globe had that same sort of beat. It's like almost every indie dance band at that time used that same beat. It's almost the beat that's in. I wouldn't say it's similar to, like, not similar, same beat, but it's similar to the overused beat that was in popular dance music at the time. Like, I think it was Milli Vanilli used. Like, everybody copied, or not copied from Milli Vanilli, but everybody sort of had that same beat. Like, it's almost like the Back to Soul, Back to Life beat. There were so many different, uh, DNA, Tom's Diner used that. Susan Vega, right? There was so many songs that used that same beat. Um, there's probably a list online of all the bands that use the same beat. Anyways, this there is sort of like a Manchester drum beat that was used in all kinds of same kind of indie bands, and this Charlatans probably used it the most. It's like 8 or 9 tracks that literally have the same sort of beat. So it's kind of got a sort of safe sound to it overall. It kind of lacks some varied kind of instrumentation, like any kind of unique instruments, or different instruments. It's kind of pretty much all the same. Um, as far as the songs, there's 11 songs on there. The, I think the first half of the album starts off pretty strong. The first 5 tracks all average a 3 star. They're all average very good. First track I have is good, 2 stars, typical indie beat of the day. Um, White shirt, good overall sound, nice and light, good sound. 2 and 3/4 stars, and then the only one I know, which is a classic Brit pop for the time, in my opinion, 3.5 stars. Always really liked that track. That's one of the ones I knew. Opportunities, 3 stars. Really nice pace to it. Stays in the sweet spot. That's one thing I can say I like about this band. That Opportunities is a good example. And then the next track called Then, also 3 stars. It's sung a little bit softer on this one. It does go well with the keyboard and the organ. Solid chorus. I like the guitar sound. The first 5 songs are is a good average. And then the second half, and it's buffered by an instrumental in the middle, which isn't bad. 2 star 2 star, good track, instrumental. Track number 6 is called 109.2. Polar Bear, the 7th track, I was reading that they think it's overproduced, and I could see that. They thought it was a good song, and then they went into the studio and just overdid it, and you can tell. I like the beat on this one a little bit better than the other ones. Again, they're all very similar beats. 2 stars for Polar Bear. Believe You, Me, 1 star. It's okay. Maybe a little bit too much like the others. That it starts to get a little tiring, the second half, and you can sort of feel that they're running out of ideas. Track number 9 is a little bit better. Flower. Definitely a much needed change of pace. I think the song should have gone earlier in the track list, maybe after the instrumental, maybe to bridge the first and the second half better. But it's probably put on the second half because it's really the only song that I think is good or is better than good on the second half. Just at least worth revisiting. The chorus is strong on it. I got 2.5 stars. Sonic isn't bad, 2 stars. Nice musical ending. And then Sproston Green, the last track, 1.5 stars. Just again, so just the last, the first 5 songs averaging 3 stars. Then the instrumental, the second half averaging less than 2 stars. So just the second half is struggling. Just running out of ideas. Kind of hurt the overall album. I think if they probably would have had a little bit more ideas and took their time a little bit and came up with some more songs, I think it would have been easily at least a good song. But considering what's on here, I got it as an okay album. 54 out of 100. Not bad album. Just can't really say it's good. Just kind of second half just kind of hurts. But it was nice to revisit, or no, it was nice to visit for the first time and hear a couple songs that I remember back in the day. I mean, shoot, this album came out when I was 14, so you're talking about almost 35 years later to come back and listen to this. This would have came out when I was a freshman in high school or eighth grade. So I mean, it's cool to yeah, actually eighth grade. So this has been, it's cool that I finally got around to listening to this. I do remember seeing this cassette in the record store and being interested but not buying it or take a chance on it. But it's nice to go. It's nice to you kind of always have these like. That's what kind of was doing on a couple of these like Curve and the Cranes and Charlatans UK. Also, I went back and did Stone Roses, so it gave me a nice opportunity to sort of revisit some bands that I remember from way back in the day that were sort of indie and hip and sort of cool, and see how if their music stood the test of time in some ways, and see if there's anything that I like in there. And I'm always looking to add a couple new tracks to a playlist, or to play on a new wave night or something like that. And I feel like I found a couple on this album, a couple that I knew and a couple that I didn't know. And I definitely liked like 4 or 5 tracks on this album for sure. Just overall as an album, and that's kind of the thing with a lot of these indie pop bands, is to make a full album is kind of difficult, for the ideas. I mean anybody to, you're 21 years old, right? And then you make up a couple songs and you're like, okay, go into an album, and you're not really ready to make a full album, right? I mean, you hear it in a lot of these bands, just, and this, there's 5 members of the band in this album, and to run out of ideas, just maybe it wasn't, maybe the focus wasn't there. You'd think from 5 members, like I would get it if there was like 2 or 3, but to have 5 members and not come up with the full album worth of solid material, it's kind of like, a couple of these tracks they were, sort of perfected and been doing for a couple of years since they got together in 1988. So by 1990, you would figure that, they've kind of made some more music in at least a year, maybe even 2 years together as a band, and at least a year when it was recorded, and not even come up with 11 good songs. You got an instrumental in there, and then you just got some lackluster tracks that you're just like, yeah, we used that beat on 8 of the 11 songs. Can we try something else? Just kind of running out of ideas. But yeah, 54 out of 100. The Charlatan UK's Some Friendly album from 1990, excuse me. All right, thanks for listening. Just curious if you have any good memories of this album, and what are your thoughts about the album? Do you think it's, if you are a fan of it, has it stood the test time? Am I missing anything on my album rating? I mean, my favorite 3 tracks are the only one I know, Opportunity, and then. I like those 3 tracks. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on the album. All right, thanks so much.